There is an amazing African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And now, usually, this applies to just life in general, but this quote is an excellent one for entrepreneurship or starting your own business, especially considering the fact that about 70% of businesses fail after just 10 years. Having your business have the highest chance of success is super important. And on this episode, we're going to discuss just that. Thank you for tuning in to Sundays with Josue, a show where we discuss ways to help improve your business through your mindset. And the whole purpose of this show is to serve as education and inspiration for the next generation of entrepreneurs. And this episode, we're discussing team building. And the guest that we have on this episode is a great guest to discuss just that complex topic, Rob Rodgers. He is the owner of one of the premier kava and creative lounges here in St. Petersburg, the Tiki Hut. And not only is he the owner, he has also been able to expand this business at an amazing rate. They have approximately tripled in size in just about 1 year. In addition to that, he did not necessarily start off as just owning this shop. He worked into it. Starting off as a freight broker with TQL, one of the great companies here in Tampa Bay. He went from there into various different odd jobs as a salesperson, selling backpacks, working for Terminex, etc., all to acquire various skills that have allowed him to become the great business owner and leader that he is today. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and bring on Rob Rodgers.
Hey, what's going on, Sway? Thanks for having me back on.
Of course. Thanks for being on. I'm really pumped to discuss, your business, building a team, because, teams get things done and teamwork makes the dream work. So I'm excited to, give some people some good value today.
Oh yeah, I'm all bronzed up. We just had our 1 year reunion for being opened. August 8th was our first day, so we're a little bit past it. But brought the whole team out on a pontoon, and got a little bit turned and burnt out there. So it was a good day for us.
Heck yeah, man. That's good stuff. You can't beat that. God bless Florida and the good old, boating that we can do down here. It's a good stuff, man. So to hop right on into it, what inspired you to go into that particular industry with kava and kratom? What was the genesis of that?
Well, originally, obviously, I was a freight broker, and I had a couple of nights of just being so stressed, not wanting to go back into the office on Monday, where, I had found another job that was, it's good pay and salary, but it didn't start for another 6 weeks. And I don't know if you remember coming back into school after the summertime. 6 weeks is a long time to sit down. You get rusty really quick. So I actually took this job, which was full commission, kratom sales for some startup job down the road. I didn't even know what kratom really was at the time. I just knew it was a supplement of type. So got in there. It was, going to be a tide over job to hold me over. But after about 3 weeks on the phone, I ran into an awesome customer, $500,000 deal, about a year's worth of salary in one phone call. And after that, I was hooked. At that point, I was like, cool, kratom's for me. So after that, I worked as a sales rep for about 16 months, maybe 2 years. And then, pivoted back out. Me and my partner went out. We opened up the smoke shop together, and then started going into manufacturing.
Yeah, man, that's some good stuff. I think it's really amazing, oftentimes, hearing an entrepreneur's journey, because oftentimes they just seem to be opportunistic, right? How they ended up where they're at. That something popped up and they took the risk and they took the plunge, and that seems to be your story as well. That that one sale led into being aware of that industry to an even greater degree, falling in love with it, and here you are today. So, when you made that transition from working from somebody else to working for yourself, was that like something that you were afraid of? How was that transition for you?
It was. Keep in mind, I don't have any kids. I got 2 dogs. I have Emily, but if I had a couple of kids that were really in schools that were completely dependent on it, maybe it would have been a little bit of a determinant factor. But if I was going to do it, I had to do it now. And it's been very cool, but stressful and exciting all at the same time. So it's really been a cool peak and valleys over the past year.
Oh,
so I don't think I would have done it any other way on that one, other than maybe learning a little bit more about the industry before jumping in and making those mistakes out of my own pocket.
Okay. Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does. It definitely does. So on that note, so you mentioned you have a business partner. So how did you guys meet? How did you form that partnership?
Yep. So we used to be sales reps together. So we sold kratom at the same spot. Really good energy, but also completely different energy. So where, that yin and yang really is important in that we really keep each other's overly creative ideas in check as far as what's really feasible. And he is somebody who basically just lives inside of smoke shops, which I'm more inside the office. So he's really a good foot on the ground type of guy. So really, really good compliment for me. I don't know. You've met Jesse at the parties.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, really, really great guy, and like I said, really, really rich in Kratom knowledge. Which I'm more of a business aspect, more of a operations guy.
Mm-hmm.
So really, really good duo on that one.
That's good stuff. So, like, and I think what you mentioned is really important, the complementary aspect, right? I think that oftentimes people assume that when you go into business with somebody, they have to be a mirror of yourself, that they have to look just like you, have the same value system, etc. But I think what you hinted at just there, the complementary, that he may have more intimate knowledge of the smoke shop industry, but you just have more operational backbone, more general business savviness, and that you guys work well together, like peanut butter and jelly. Excuse me.
Yep. And we really do. It's not that we don't get along, because we really do. Obviously we have constructive arguments here and there, but today was, he brought up, he's like, today was the first day we hung out outside of the office since we opened up the shop. I was like, well, cool. Let's keep our nose to the grind for an extra 2 years. I'll see you next year. Yeah. But in a good way, he's a great guy, but we got work to do. So yeah, it's cool to have a guy that you're not just going to be in the shop hanging out, wanting to play Xbox with. We're about business, and that's a good compliment.
Of course, having the same similar vision, having the same like laser focus, and you guys are both going towards marching towards the same objective. It definitely does help.
He takes great ownership on the days that I'm not there, and vice versa. So we're pretty good about pulling each other when we need to.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned that you wish that you had stayed, and gotten more knowledge about the industry. Would you say that Jesse, being your partner, having more intimate knowledge, has that fully like kind of rectified that gap in your knowledge, or do you still feel like you needed some more? How does that portion work?
Well, absolutely. It's just that a couple of those mistakes. I was working for a wholesale broker that sold just general smoke shop supplies, and I was learning a lot from him. But I did go out to do my own thing just a couple months earlier than what I would have liked to. A lot of these mistakes, they're just the rookie mistakes. Your first year into business, you're bound to fall down a couple times. You got to just get back up and get back out there. But yeah, that was just something that I would have liked to be able to have somebody else, a mentor in my spot, where right now that is something where I'm looking forward to try to find a new mentor out there that's a couple years older, that's really been there and done that I can ask them questions for the more important stuff.
Of course. I think that's one of the things that's like super valuable, is having someone who has been there before you, has done these steps. I think that's the whole purpose of the show, right? Is to just give little nuggets and give people little gems of here's how to avoid the common mistakes. So what's an example of one of the easily avoidable first year mistakes that someone opening a shop, especially brick and mortar, can avoid?
I'd say your team, get a team that's going to represent your brand, and that's going to be a good shop member for you, not a buddy, not somebody who necessarily, because so far a lot of the guys that we have gone through on referrals, it's somebody who, they work out, they're great for the time being, but they're there because they're your buddy. Where this is a business, this isn't your friendship spot, and it's a little bit different because it is a lounge, it is a spot for people to hang out. But the people behind the register, they gotta be go-getters. So all of our crew, the ones that we still have with us, they're all go-getters. They're all cool dudes. But definitely vetting your guys before letting them on and giving them that apron.
Gotcha. Dan, that's good. So talking about the concept of business partners, I think that's such an amazing concept. Having someone who can supplement your weaknesses. If you, for example, if you have a great idea about maybe a tech product, but you don't know how to code, finding that coder that can help, be your CTO, so to speak. So what's some advice you would give someone on vetting their business partner?
On vetting your business partner, other than definitely finding your complement, finding somebody who you can constructively argue with. It's as funny as it sounds, you're going to argue with your business partners often, and if you're not, you're doing something wrong. You are two completely different minds that are running the same business. And if you're agreeing on every single detail of it, somebody is shutting their mouth. Somebody's not voicing their own opinion. So we run into a lot of, disagreements on it, but it ends up for the better, and as long as you're able to constructively have that, then that's super beneficial for communication.
So that's so what so with you and Jesse, for example, did that just happen naturally? Like, were your personalities just naturally kind of complementary in regards to like both are able to give criticism, take it well? Was that ping pong there from the start, or did you have to like work on it to build it, or was it just like natural and smooth?
Oh, it's funny. Like when you go to the store, sometimes we have like little small petty disagreements on layout of the floor plan. You'll go in there and you'll see it on Jesse's spot. I'll move the sofas and the trash can, and it'll be both moved back on Tuesday. So every here and there, we'll both try to take the reins on it. But no, for the most part, we do a pretty good job of having our weekly meetings and getting everything taken care of. But like I said, sometimes his ideas are, in my opinion, a little outlandish, and sometimes my ideas are a little bit impractical too. So he does a good job of reining it in, and me as well.
Man, that's good stuff. So so far, like Michael Kardashian highlighted here, hunt for hunters. Your business partner, your employees, everyone should take this business as seriously as you do, or at least close to it, to be go-getters. And then
Yep.
two, being able to give and take constructive criticism. If we're not disagreeing about something, one of us is not speaking our truth, and that's not okay for the business, and that's not okay for the business partnership either, because then resentment will fester, et cetera, et cetera. Now we're in a place of, we've gone past the point of return. So that's really, important. Thanks for mentioning that, Rob. That's some good stuff.
Nice. And
So
and yet it's always going to be a little bit hard to get your guys to work as hard as you do and to really put as much care into it, because at the end of the day, this is your business, it's not theirs. So
yeah,
it's going to be hard to set that expectation. But we got brutally loyal guys that work at the shop. They're really cool. They can come in at 10 minutes notice. Not that we try to, but they're always down to do extra work, go the extra mile. And I don't know why. I don't know what we've been doing to them, but we're gonna have to keep doing it.
well, actually, on that note, what do you think? If you think about it, what are some things that you think inspire such loyalty? Because from my just observationally, being in the shop, one thing that I see you do is that you express gratitude and appreciation. I see you do that a lot. So I think that's one thing. I think that might be a bit of your secret sauce. But do you have any thought about what helps keep your people that work with you so kind of like galvanized and motivated?
Let's say office atmosphere. We work inside of a smoke shop, so we have a good persona going through. At the end of the day, we have slightly stupid playing in the background. It's not as tight knit and high collar as some of the other offices. Like I said, some of the offices you really got to watch what you say. Taking your 2 p.m. shits, the highlight of your day, to go in there on 10 minutes on your phone, and you take an extra 10 minutes. It's like half the days I go through, I forget to go to the fucking bathroom, because you're there, you want to work, you don't want to hide from the show and get your own little space away.
Yeah.
So like I said, I think that it really is just the atmosphere. We have a really cool team that, yeah, here and there, you got 5 guys that work in the same office, here and there, they're going to peck at each other. They're going to figure out the pecking order. But they all get along, and we have a really, really cool, and I hate to call it a family, it sounds cliche, but yeah, we got a really, really cool, tight-knit crew.
True. Yeah. And that's important. I think the culture and atmosphere, and people always say that starts from the top. And I think that I see that, just as the more entrepreneurs I talk to, that I meet, and also just observing, you can see that because, you're someone who expresses gratitude. You keep things objective. Like if you're someone that's making a mistake, you call them out. But at the same time, if it's a small thing here or there, it's to be expected. Like you mentioned, in your first year in the business, you made some mistakes. It's to be expected. It's your first year in the business.
Yep.
But being able to take those punches in stride and keep on moving your feet forward it's literally one of the keys to success that I've seen. So I like that. That's a really good thing to highlight. And making that part of your culture is super important.
Yeah, well, and having these guys have 2 bosses that are basically at the same level, it makes it a little bit confusing. Of sometimes me and Jesse will tell them conflicting things. It's very rare, but when it happens, it's hold on, I can break up the phone. We got to figure this out. But it's working out really well so far. As far as these guys are independent contractors technically, so they work for themselves. At the end of the day, I'm here to help them be an asset for everything that they need, answer any questions, push the sale over the top. But that's their money, so I don't really have to motivate these guys. Money does it for them.
True. And therein lies, that's a whole other thing actually. So talking about accountability. So they're self-motivated, they're accountable to themselves. Obviously you do have oversight, but they're self-motivated, self-driven. So how do you yourself give so much freedom to your employees without having reluctance? Because a lot of people that I talk to and that have come across, they say, I want to hire an editor, I want to hire some more staff, but they just can't do it as good as me. So how do you overcome that if you ever felt that in the first place?
I do. I feel it every time that I do give a little bit away. Um, I'm a little bit of a control freak, so they can do a perfect job. I'm going to want them to do a perfect plus one job, you know. So it's I always give them criticism, but also compliments, you know, when it deserved. But yeah, every time that I give it away, it's a little bit easier for you because then you get to focus on what you really need to do. Like I just got a new guy who's going to be working for us starting tomorrow. I'm going to train up. Who's going to be working at the register because right now, pretty much half of Monday, all of Friday, you know, I'm at the register working at the shop. You know, I'm pouring teas, I'm talking to the customers, which I love. But I do need to do a little bit more operational work. So that's going to be able to give me an extra day and a half during that week to tie up to be on the phones more. So yeah, you need to have a little bit of delegation or you're going to work, you know, 16 hours a day, every day.
And arguably not even be able to help as many people as you otherwise could have because you're not able to grow.
You're going to be doing, you know, you're going to be cleaning the bathrooms. You're going to be doing regular maintenance, restocking the shelves, stuff like that, where at the end of the day, you can get an employee to do that type of stuff where, you know, you can handle, you know, doing operations, phone calls, sales, stuff where you're a little bit better suited.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely for a while we didn't have the option. We had to clean the bathrooms, we had to restock the shelves, everything like that. But we're starting to grow, so now we can get a couple employees in there to help us out.
There we go. So actually, this is another great question for I think for many first beginning entrepreneurs. So what has been your process personally between you and Jesse for choosing which employees to hire first and which tasks to delegate versus which tasks to do yourself?
Well, we already knew a lot of guys that were in the industry. So a couple of the ones that we brought on were people who we had already worked with in some capacity. So we kind of had, you know, a Rolodex of guys to call in of, hey, what are you doing right now? You're on the couch? Well, let's get you trained up. Let's get you on the phones. A couple other guys are making calls part-time while they are already doing their full-time job. Because at the end of the day, some of these guys really just, they're already going to smoke shops. They're already collecting it. It is what it is. So they're just sending out emails on their part-time, on their lunch breaks, after work. And, you know, it keeps them sharp. But I'm sorry. Let's go back to the question on that one. Re-answer it? Are you asking?
Oh. So yeah, but how do you choose what type of people how do you choose which tasks to delegate and which people to hire for? Or I guess rather to rephrase the question, how do you choose who to hire first and for what roles do you hire first?
For that one, I definitely got as many sales guys as I could find comfortably for my territories. I tried to really only do one sales guy per state. You know, give them 2 states max. So I don't try to have a huge team out there. You know, right now I have 3 guys under my wing. Jesse's got 3 guys under his, so that we don't have people messing up our brand. Basically, you know, we want it to be small enough where we can control, be able to make sure that they are getting the right message out to everybody and train them up efficiently before just giving them a phone and, you know, sending them out there. So a lot of the guys we already knew, and then a whole bunch of people come into the shop that they stay for a tea, we talk for 20 minutes, they come back next week, and then after a couple of weeks you realize that these guys really have spent how much time in Kratom and Kava bars and already work at, you know, the Verizon store selling cell phones. Some of them are an easy layover, an easy transition into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the, it's really cool how you mentioned that because I was having a conversation with Rick last on the last episode, and we were talking about being able to identify the giftings that you have, and being able to see when someone gives you feedback and say, "Oh, you're kind of funny. Have you ever thought doing comedy?" Or "You're charismatic. Have you thought about doing sales?" And I think that's one of the skills a leader has to be able to have is identify opportunities in regards to people when maybe someone has an ability within themselves they didn't actually see. So like you mentioned, someone's coming to the shop frequently, they seem to be very passionate about Kratom and Kava, and they also already have a sales role. Well, likely they could potentially be a salesperson for Kratom and Kava because that skill set transfers. So it's really cool to see how you had an eye for that and you picked up on it in real time.
It's been weird, man, having to do all the different hats of, obviously you have to be the smile at the front desk for everybody. You have to be customer service for angry customers. You have to be a little bit on, the hammer side when you're doing purchasing agreements and when you're, signing contracts and you're trying to get deals. So you have to really be Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde on some of these, which, I'm still figuring it out. But it's been really cool because I haven't been living in any type of a mundane spot. It's always something new that I have to kind of I'm out of my comfort zone pretty much every day in some regard, which, bothers me, but also really gets me out of bed.
Man, that's really, that gives me goosebumps thinking about that, because that sentiment of being outside of your comfort zone, being maybe fearful, maybe being a bit anxious, but embracing it and still moving forward regardless, is something that I've seen countless times and experienced myself. And they do say that the cliche is outside of your comfort zone is where growth happens. And before I used to poo-poo it, but I've come to realize over time that it really is the true, that's the true reality of the situation.
Yep. I mean, a lot of it is, you're on the phone and you're doing, something that you've never done before, and you have to try to act like you're the owner of the company. You don't want to seem unprofessional, like this is your first rodeo. So you really do have to get in there. And, every here and there, I come straight up with them. Hey, you can walk me through, that'd be great. Because it's a little bit of a puzzle. But, on some of them, you really have to just go in there and put on your dancing shoes.
Yeah, of course. So one of the things, there was so one of my mentors said that fear is false expectations appearing real, and that oftentimes we are more afraid of fear than the actual occurrence. So do you have any examples from maybe earlier on in your career where you were afraid of something or had anxiety about something, and then when the time came, it actually wasn't that big of a deal?
Absolutely. So every single time that we get a new sales guy and we need to get them on for their first day of cold calling, it's that exactly. It's the first day, they have such an anxiety of getting onto the phone. They'll spend, an hour prepping up and getting all of their notes and, doing over analysts. They're just killing themselves by just doing so much studying because they just pick up the phone. You're going to learn. On a lot of these, if this was like a high-end medical sales where you had, 10 prospects a month that you could reach out to, you do a little bit of extra homework. But there's a smoke shop, you stand on here, they're like Tim Hortons. They're everywhere. So 2 minutes of prospecting before you give them a call, basically. And that makes it a lot easier for guys when they don't psych themselves out, just dial the phone. And I know that sounds stupid. Every other sales, manager has said that before, but I've done that time and time again where I have that phone dialed out with the numbers. I'm thinking, and it happens to me, sometimes I feel like $1,000,000. Sometimes I get really stressed out on the phone. And reteaching that to sales guys was definitely pretty funny because, you got to go in where last year I was just a regular sales rep. This year, I got to put on the reins of teaching everybody how to sell the product. So different and exciting, but also a little bit nerve-wracking.
Yeah, all in one. Yeah, it's true. I think cliches become cliches for a reason. That what is it? I think it's called call reluctancy, or there's some term for it in the sales world. But people are afraid of calling, and we used to be there. Especially if you've worked in any sales role where you're cold calling somebody that's not expecting you to call, we do have a hesitation, and it's in various fields, from insurance to real estate, smoke shops, etc. It's ubiquitous. Everyone has that same fear, for the most part, when you first start. But once you do it a couple of times, you realize that it's really not that bad, and that it's more so false expectations appearing real than actually anything to be concerned about in truth. So it's cool that you're able to now not only experience that yourself, but also go ahead and teach people what you went through, and now they're experiencing it as well, which is cool to pay it forward.
Yeah, and I explained to him of like, hey man, a lot of these guys have done door to door, just like myself, where that is very much, if you can do door to door, you can do cold callings over the phone. Because on that one, you're on their home turf, you are bothering their day. They open up the door and you have to get that pitch out within 15 seconds. It's that's live. Where there's only so many houses you can walk to in a day, but you can call hundreds of people a day on the phone. If they didn't like that one, if you messed up, they didn't even see your face. Odds are they won't remember you next month, if you really did mess up. So people worry a little bit too much, where at the end of the day, they have everything to gain. And I think that's something that a lot of people do. Analysis paralysis.
It's a very real thing, a very real thing. So now that you started to step into more of a leadership role, especially of sales reps who have gone through the same things that you have, what have been some of your biggest challenges as a leader, and how did you overcome them?
Biggest challenges as a leader is definitely gonna have to be, having two bosses, having a little bit of conflicting ideas from time to time, but then also just, being so new into it. So every day is just going to be a little bit different of, getting challenged out there. But I don't know. It would be a good question for me to circle back to. Let me go to the next one, and I think I'll have a better answer for you towards the end.
Okay, yeah, certainly. So here's a bit of a different one. It's similarly about leadership, but it's more about delegation. So there's a concept that it's better to have it's better to have 50% of a watermelon opposed to 100% of a grape. So with you giving up a little bit of ownership and leadership decisions in this whole process of building the Tiki Hut, do you feel like it was worth it, the trade off?
Absolutely, because I mean, at the end of the day, it opens up where I would only be doing one secular thing. Where right now, the Tiki Hut is my baby. That's something where I love it, very very proud of it. Herbal Vision is what is really paying my bills. And if I didn't have a partner, I would be doing one or the other, but definitely not both. So
Mhm.
it opens up a lot of different avenues and just takes a lot of the weight off your shoulders. You're carrying that with somebody else who isn't an employee. They're not sitting there, worried about doing the bare minimum. This is their company too. So it benefits them to stay up until 3 a.m. and make those extra hours, do that extra work.
Yep, they have skin in the game. They have similar incentives. They are too also bought in. So on that note, actually, you mentioned Vision. We didn't have a chance to talk about it too much yet. So give a quick broad, bird's eye overview about Herbal Vision and the one-on-one on that.
Yeah, so we do Kratom manufacturing. So it's actually pretty cool where we're in a pretty tight area in Florida for our smoke shop where there is, maybe six or seven within 2 miles of our smoke shop. But out of those six or seven, four of them are our customers right now, where we do supply them with their smoke shop supply. That's why we got so much of that big expansion is half of its warehouse space. So back there, we're able to keep all of our product, and we're able to keep our clean room and all of our stuff back there to get everything packaged up. And it's a really nice 1-2 between we're able to go B2B or B2C, direct to the consumer. So we're both of those levels of the supply chain. So it makes it a lot nicer for us. And it
Uh-huh.
gives us a lot more competitive advantage for the other smoke shops.
Yep, good old horizontal integration. On that note, actually, so everyone talks about that your second business is always easier to start than your first. So when you start, so did you find that your experiences, the lessons you learned, those rookie mistakes you made your first year with the Tiki Hut have made Herbal Vision that much easier?
Definitely. I mean, you basically have half of the SOPs as far as starting a new business. You already have those standard operating procedures as far as, hey, this is how you apply for this business license. This is who I'm going to use for my accountant. This is what I'm going to do to build my website. You already have that Rolodex built up. So it's just plug and play and then a couple of different change ups. You have a couple of things that you need to adjust, but half of it you've done before. As long as it's in a similar industry, then it's gonna be cool. If I was selling, you know, steel out in Ohio or out in Pittsburgh, and I was selling kratom over in Florida, it would be different because I wouldn't have the same amount of people. But it's kratom and kratom.
Hmm. Well, if someone could sell steel in Pittsburgh, I think it would be you, Rob. I think you'd be able to pull that off.
Well, that's what I actually wanted to do originally. Well, not selling steel, but when I was a freight broker, I moved primarily hay for soft commodity brokers. So basically, just corn stalks, hay, stuff like that. And I used to do their credit reports, so I saw these farmers that were out in the middle of East Bumble nowhere, and they were making triple my salary within a course of a season, 3 or 4 months. They were hustling up a couple hundred grand. And I was pretty hooked on that one because it's super easy the way she explained it, as far as, really just checking the weather index. You're figuring out where it's been a dry summer and you can't get any hay to grow there yourself. And then you just check where it's been wet. You're just going, it's just supply and demand on that scale. Only problem is a whole truckload worth of hay, may cost 20 grand,
Mm.
cost $1,000 plus to ship it. You got to get a whole 53-foot flatbed. You can fit that much kratom in a box, ship a UPS. So it's the exact same idea of wholesaling, but it's at a much more, micro level on that one. It's a lot smaller. So, if I could find something smaller, I would, but this is it for now.
It's really cool to see, and that's another example. I think that and in the Phil Knight book, he talks about that when he was building Nike, that he was close to bankruptcy several different times. But in his heart, he always said to himself, if I fail, I'm just going to go ahead and start again because all these lessons will help me somewhere else. And that's what it sounds like happened to you in your story. From your TQL days, you saw, how the supply chain worked, and you were able to take that into what you're doing now with the Tiki Hut and what you're doing with Herbal Vision. And so it's cool to see how through your journey, and I think that's a very common thing that will happen to any entrepreneur, that through your journey of building your company, whether it's successful or not, whether it's successful to a great degree, small degree, or not at all, that if you continue to just keep on persisting, that you actually will find success, because in that process, you're acquiring more skills, more connections, building your network. Like you said, Rob, having that Rolodex and your SOP built from Tiki Hut made Herbal Vision that much easier. And I think that's something that I really want to try to encourage the audience to think about, is that even a failure doesn't have to be necessarily a failure if you don't stop pursuing and keep on pushing, because those skills and the knowledge you learned will carry with you for the rest of your life.
No. And there was, and you definitely have to do the right job for you, as far as you have to fit. You can't just jam into the wrong peg. I had jobs where, when I was working for Terminex, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a bug guy. I'm not a very hands-on, a builder in that regard. I don't know about the fascia of your building, so I sucked. I didn't do very well. There's a reason why I only worked there for 3 or 4 months. And, there's been places where I'm the top guy, within the first month. So you have to find your spot where you can really thrive, because there's been times where I suck, and there's been times where I rule, at least in my personal opinion. But I think that you really have to find that. Don't get stuck in and then get down on yourself that, man, I'm not good at sales. Maybe that's not the right environment for you. Maybe you don't have a good sales manager that can actually teach you. Maybe you're not putting in as much effort because you clearly don't like that product. You don't like that company, something. But, it might not be you're not good at sales. Maybe you're not good at sales right there.
Yeah, maybe not. I like that. That's true. Maybe you're not good at sales right there, because that's I'll let that stand. But that stands alone. So I do want to go ahead and hop over to some of the questions real quick that we have from social media. Thanks for everyone who's watching currently. Rob is doing a great job, and this is one of my favorite ones for sure. So let's go ahead and ask the first question. And Stephen asked, what advice would you give someone looking to open a brick and mortar shop in a post-COVID-19 world?
That's a good question. For us, luckily, we were opening up in Florida, which is super friendly. And especially we were in unincorporated Largo, so they're really easy to pick up the phone and actually talk to a representative of the county, and they'll help you out with any questions. But post-COVID, we got a ton of deals as far as our restaurant equipment, a lot of our stuff, because you got to figure a shitload of businesses closed down, and they're just trying to sell their equipment for pennies on the dollar. So if you're trying to open yours up and you can find those deals of, all of your business's needs are just sitting in a storage, apartment right now for, a tenth of the price, maybe half of the price at the very least. But, you're going to get a deal if you start working it like that, because there is, sucks to say, but their misfortune, definitely capitalize on it. Definitely get that equipment if you're trying to do a startup on a small cost.
That's true. Let's see here. Here's another good one. So Kyle asked, I've thought of opening a shop, but I was thinking about doing it online. Do you think in person is better?
Depends on where you are. If you're in a spot where you can get a lot of foot traffic with people driving by, and you're still not going to have to spend that much for rent and overhead, I think that a brick and mortar shop is always going to do a little bit more business. But if you know how to market it right, it really, what does it cost you? $100 to make a website, maybe a little bit more if you want to make it fancy, but you can get it done pretty basic, and then just run it out of your house, start your own shipping, do it through eBay. You can get that done. And processing's a little bit of a bitch to be able to get set up for anything smoke shop related. They do give you a hard time. But yeah, I'd say running it online is something that we're trying to start getting into to get all of our extra product out the door. This is a great extra revenue source.
Actually, on the note for this particular question, Rob, I think something else that you talked about is that, if you're shipping like shirts, right, it's super easy to do online. But I think with your product, Rob, with Kava and Kratom, because of the community that is like inherent with it, because it's like a lounge, people are sitting around, relaxing, getting to know each other. That's one of the benefits I think about having it in person, is that you can kind of create like a recurring customer base and a bit of a community in person.
There is, like, in person is really cool. We got a ton of regulars that really do, it's not just like a regular grocery store. You go pick up your stuff, you leave. You hang out for 20 minutes, you talk to people that you don't even know, you make a couple buddies, and then we have a lot of who's the regular in Cheers? I guess Mort, or doesn't matter. But we got a lot of regulars that sit down at the table that, you know, they can spend there. If I go in there right now, I can name 3 people that I know are sitting on those chairs. You know, so
Man.
it is definitely pretty cool. But shipping online is also pretty cool. I mean, we posted just a couple of posts on Reddit and a couple like the MeWe's and a couple of these subreddits, because you got to consider Kratom. You can't really post on Facebook very well. You'll get flagged. You'll get sent to Facebook jail and stuff. But some of these other smaller ones, you make 1 or 2 posts, and you know you'll have people call you throughout the week. Hey, I just broke my rib in a car accident. Can I get some of these, you know, Kratom tablets mailed over to my house? And it's cool catching the individual stories of people reaching out to you from online who then reach back out. Hey, it really helped. And you know, that's part of what makes me smile when I do it. You know, obviously I like to make money, but I like to help people, and that's something that Kratom really does help alleviate for a lot of people.
Hmm. Actually, yeah. Can we just touch on real quick some of the health benefits of Kratom and Coffee, Rob?
Yeah. So I mean, we get a lot of interesting characters. You know, Kratom does alleviate a lot of the symptoms of, you know, opioid withdrawals and everything like that. So it really does help. They say Kratom saves lives. I would stick with that as far as, you know, it does help keep people off of harder drugs and, you know, cut down on the opioid withdrawals. So it also not only does that, but it's going to be a very, very good anti-inflammatory. So a lot of guys that just got into car accidents or have rheumatoid arthritis, have hip trouble, just got done surgeries, they'll take the tablets as not having to be strung out on Percocets or any type of pain medication. It's an alternative pain, you know, pain reliever. So helps people out where they're not disassociated. So you're not spending half of your day, hey, you know, I'm on my medication, I'm a little bit weird today. Majority of these people, you can't even tell they're on Kratom. They go onto their day. A lot of people are wearing scrubs. They come in and out. They go to their normal job. You know, I don't want there to be a stigma against it. All walks of life come through there. We got doctors, we got lawyers, we got people that work in construction, we got guys that panhandle on the corner. You know, it's all walks of life that come into the shop, and that's part of the cool but the kooky, you know, side of it. You'll talk to people about crazy conspiracy theories. I'll get great financial advice. I never know what's coming through that door.
Oh yeah, and as they say, variety is the spice of life. And
Yep.
you know, chronic pain actually is one of the major. It's one of the major causes of depression. So it really does make a difference. You know, things such as alternative medicine practices like yoga, or you know, like you said, like different ways to alleviate pain are super important. I think are should be highlighted more and not undervalued. You know, regardless of the methodology, as long as it's safe, obviously. But yeah, that's a super
Yeah.
important thing.
And even if you're not doing that, having that environment, as far as, you know, it really is, I don't want to say it's a safe space, but it's a spot where you can really go there. It's super tolerant. You sit down, you're going to have a couple of laughs, because you then think kava pings off your limbic system almost identically to alcohol, except for the fact that it is a endorphin releasing substance that doesn't cause any anger. So there's no mean drunks. You know, you're
Yeah.
not going to go to a bar and run into a couple of assholes. Everybody's sitting there giggly, smiley, looking to talk to people and have a good time. So it not only helps them physically, but it does help them, give them a spot where, you know, I couldn't tell you how many guys just use it as a second home, you know, to come through, do their work, to bring their laptop, and they get their day job done. They have a cup of Kratom, but then they also just get that environment, you know, being social. I think during COVID, everybody got really, really tucked into their house and a little bit recluse. Some of those people come into the shop, they sit down, and they don't leave. You know, it's like, oh shit, you've been here for 2 hours. And it's awesome because that is their social time, you know? So I think that that's really cool to have those, you know, those social spots throughout town.
110%. And being able to provide that for people is a great service.
Not everybody likes to drink, you know, and when you go to a bar, you have that pressure, where when you go to one of ours, you know, you go to a lounge, you're not, you know, you're just hanging out, grab a tea, grab a soda, grab a water. But you know, it's cool to have you around.
110%. Let's see here. So we do have another question. We have 2 more. So this one and one more. So Ashley asks, how do you find people to hire who you trust?
A lot of them were people. Well, so far the only guys that we actually have hired are people that started out as regulars. You know, they spend all day in there already, you know, learning the ins and outs of the shop, and eventually we had them. Hey, do you mind watching the store for the day or two while, because it was just run by me and Jesse. So if we ever needed to do something as the two of us, go to the bank to sign some paperwork or anything like that, we had to close up the store. So, we did find a couple of our regulars that had knew the system. They knew our brand. They knew how we wanted to greet people at the front door. And yeah, obviously, you verify and you make sure that everything's there and everything's accounted for. But, going forward, we were able to find, 4 or 5 guys that were greatly able to fill in. And some of them we already knew. Some of them were from other jobs, or, Jesse had known them for a number of years.
Of course. And I think that's one thing too, like you highlighted, being able to see who's in your natural network. These people are coming here regularly, you know them, like, and trust them already. So might as well see and test it out to see. But like you said, hold them accountable and still double check and verify. But
yeah. And don't get me wrong, we did lose a couple of, like, hey, they didn't work out at the job. And when you let them know that it's not, a good fit, you do lose a regular on that regard. So it does kind of suck when it doesn't work out. Yeah, you lose that bottom line. But, it's a lot easier when you already know somebody for weeks before you interview somebody. An interview, you met somebody for 5 minutes. We consider that like a 3-week long interview.
There we go. So if you guys ever walk in the Tiki Hut, make sure you are on your P's and Q's. So Thomas asked, do you plan to franchise or open more stores in the future? And if so, what's your strategy?
Definitely. So we originally wanted to, get a different shop going by now, but we actually just did a triple expansion in the shop that we already had, and then are opening up the other business. So hopefully within the next year, we can open up another storefront. If not here, maybe in Jacksonville, but super, super similar market, way less saturated. And I think that it would be really, really great to be able to take the Tiki Hut up there. Only the problem would be we would have to figure out a way of, we would have to be up there for a number of months, maybe even, a number of years to make sure it's up on the ground, getting run right. You can't really just slap a general manager out 4 hours away from you.
Yeah, exactly. Because therein lies more accountability at the hold. That's a good idea. Any reason? So is it any reason why Jacksonville came to mind? Like, do you have people? Like, I'm just curious for.
Yes. So lack of Kratom bars, and B, very, very similar demographic. They sell a lot of Kratom over there already. It's a super populated area that just doesn't have that trend that pushed over to it yet. I got a buddy who has a smoke shop over in the middle of nowhere, Kentucky, and he's the only smoke shop and Kratom Kava bar for, I think, the 2 whole counties, like 2 or 3 counties. So basically, if you want smoke shop stuff, you go to him. So all he did, I told him, man, you should open up a kava bar. And he did. And he had a line out the door because he's the only one around. He's pulling that community from all around, where here you really do have a very wide option. So you have to stay competitive, which we're going to stay competitive up there, but a lot less saturated, like I said. So I think that Jacksonville would be a cool one.
Nice. That's good. Thank you for touching on that, because I think market research is super important, but oftentimes we don't talk about it enough. So I might have to do an episode in the future talking about just market research alone. So I may have to have you back on the show talking about how that Jacksonville expansion went, as in the future.
And maybe even name it. I always wanted to have a smoke shop that was called Buddy's Place. So I want to have a big picture of Buddy's fat face on there, and then have Buddy's Kava. I think that would be cool. Use him as the logo.
I know.
So it might not even be another Tiki Hut. We'll see.
Okay, heck yeah. Either way, that's going to be fire. Well, Rob, thanks so much for your time, brother. This is a great episode. We got some great feedback from those in the chat. I'm super excited to continue to extract more value. But as we go ahead and wrap up, are there any final words you want to give to the audience, for the viewers that are watching live, or those that may be watching the replay in the future?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say definitely thanks for getting out here, giving me a little bit of your time. I don't always get very much done on these interviews as far as getting all my stuff done. As soon as I get off the phone, I go, shit, I should have said this, that. So I'm sure I'll have a couple of those ones, but I'm always willing to get back on here, get a couple extra questions. I'd love to be back on the show if you have me on here in the future.
Of course.
Maybe we'll go in another year from now. We'll see how it goes.
Heck yeah, of course. Well, thanks so much, Rob. So yeah, thanks so much for being on the show, Rob, dropping these gems about building teams, having strategies to hire people, how to know how to delegate, and being able to give a piece of your creation to somebody else to help it grow. And thank you so much for everyone who's tuning in, watching live and on the replay. Don't forget to hit that like button and to subscribe. And we'll see you guys in about 2 weeks on the next episode, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Thanks again, Sway. I really appreciate you.
Anytime. Peace.